There's no way around it. In 3.5 years, the Biden-Harris administration welcomed in 10 million plus illegal aliens. We know tens of thousands of them are convicted murderers and rapists. There are criminal aliens that are filling the ICE dockets that are non-detained. This is simply inexcusable.
In this video, Tomi Lahren is a guest on the Alex Michelson Show. Tomi Lahren debates some liberal over securing the southern border. With that, let's watch Tomi Lahren do what most conservatives would do in this situation: crush a woke idiot.
Our borders. We need to know who enters and exits our country from a national security perspective. But to say that Donald Trump will be any better is almost a joke, because his so-called wall has already failed endlessly where it was built. They immediately built ladders that climbed over the top. But furthermore, let's actually get to the key issue here. When Congress finally had something where there was bipartisan support, top Republicans were behind the bill. It was Donald Trump's cry that, oh, it will help Joe Biden, that got all the Republicans to vote against what was a rare occurrence of bipartisan support for a bill to actually address immigration. My concern is both parties benefit from making this a hot potato issue every single election, and any real solution never gets discussed.
Tomi.
Oh boy, you know, Alex, there's so much I have to say on this. As somebody who's been to the border several times during both administrations, I have a lot, but I'm going to try to keep it brief and concise. Listen, there's no way around it. In 3.5 years, the Biden-Harris administration welcomed in 10 million plus illegal aliens. We know tens of thousands of them are convicted murderers and rapists. There are criminal aliens that are filling the ICE dockets that are non-detained. This is simply inexcusable. They have been overseeing this administration. Now, listen, I know it's easy to point to a talking point saying the bipartisan border bill. That really wasn't a border bill at all. It was a foreign aid bill disguised as a border bill. It normalized 1.8 million illegal aliens into this country per year. Now, if you're okay with that, then that's another discussion. But a lot of Americans are not okay with normalizing and codifying an invasion at our southern border. It afforded lawyers to illegal immigrants.
You know things are bad for the Democrats when they literally spew the same talking points over and over for not just an extended period of time, but for an endless period of time. Here we go again with the bipartisan border bill. Tommy's 100% right. There was a bunch of foreign aid packed into that bill, had nothing to do with the southern border. And probably the biggest problem with that bill was it didn't allow the U.S. to lock down the border unless an average of 5,000 illegal immigrants entered the country per day for a week. So if it's 4,999 illegal immigrants average over 7 days, come on in. Do the math. Is that close to securing the southern border? No, I don't know. The only talking point they have is that Donald Trump did this as a political move. Well, I'll tell you what, I don't think he did. But if he did, thank goodness. It was a waste of money. It still let people claim this ridiculous asylum seeker thing which pretty much everyone who comes in now does and just gets let in with borderline zero vetting. And the only way the border could be locked down is if more than 35,000 people came in a week. You see how crazy that is? And what the hell is he talking about? Trump's border wall failed. Biden halted construction on it on his first day, and Democrats fought tooth and nail not to fund the border wall. And you know what's funny? I remember when that border wall discussion was happening, all the stupid Democrats and talk show hosts and all those dumbasses were saying, where are we going to get the money to pay for this thing? Well, they seem to have plenty of money to give to illegal immigrants that come into this country. In fact, they have so much money that FEMA ran out of money when it had back-to-back devastating hurricanes because so much of their budget was earmarked towards just handing money to illegal immigrants. So I promise you, the cost of the border wall is a drop in the bucket compared to the money we spend on illegal immigrants in this country. And not to mention, where are those same Democrats saying, where are we going to get the money from when we send, I don't even know what the number is now, however many billion to Ukraine, hundreds of billions of dollars? Give me a break. To suggest that a wall is just so easy to get over and it's no problem is the dumbest argument. Okay, you know what? Let's say I concede that, yeah, some people might get creative and find ways to get over the wall. You tell me it's still not a major deterrent? It wouldn't slow the flow into the country? It's ridiculous. Anyway, let's get back to the video.
I've had several attorneys like Ethan on my show that specialize in immigration, and they say, listen, once you start affording these people immigration attorneys, any good immigration attorney is going to stretch this process out 5-10 years. By that time, these illegal aliens have already had multiple children, and it's almost impossible to remove them from this country. The bipartisan border bill, I understand it's a great talking point for the left, but it would not have solved anything, and it would not have done anything with the 10 million plus. There was no deportation guidance in that border bill. So the majority of Americans support mass deportation, over 50%. It's time to start dealing with the problem. I know that the Democrats just want to fast track these people to citizenship and voting rights, but the majority of the American people, they don't want to see that happen.
I mean, I have to speak up just for a second, Alex. If you're going to mass deport over 10 million people, rounding them up and shipping them out, first off, that is horrific from a human rights perspective, but more importantly, it ignores the economic impact. There's a reason that prior Republican administrations, such as George W. Bush, were pro-immigration. It's because the big business, the donors behind many politicians in both parties, benefits from having lower cost labor that Americans won't do. Remember that there was an effort in places like Florida to get Americans to take the job. They jacked the wage up and Americans wouldn't do the work. They couldn't do the work. Many of these jobs are not something that Americans want to do. What's important, to Tommy's point, is that we need a functioning visa system for people to come here and work. It used to be called the
Does anyone ever ask, what would other countries do if 10 to 20 million illegal immigrants came in over a 4-year period? You think they'd have a problem with that? I'll tell you what, they wouldn't have allowed it in the first place. I can't believe this is an argument. And what did he say? It's inhumane to deport people? They broke the law. What are you talking about? And that's such a great point about giving all these bajillion illegal immigrants that are coming into the country immigration attorneys. Immigration attorneys' job is to keep them in the country. And she's right. There's so many people coming in that the cases were backed up forever. So they'd let these people in with no vetting, give them a court date that was like a year out. You think they're going to show up to that? And they know that the government's not enforcing deportation or anything. So an illegal immigrant coming here looks at coming into the country as a very low risk, high reward. Very low risk that you're going to be deported, but high reward because you get to enjoy all the benefits that come with living in the United States. And I agree with this guy. I think a lot of the people that are pro-immigration, it is about big business and cheap labor. If your business relies on paying people very low wages to do business, then you need to think about restructuring that business, or it's not really a viable business to begin with. That's not an excuse. And they always talk about, oh, Americans don't want to do these jobs. Well, I'll tell you what, if they're not competing with illegal immigrants who will do it for nothing, then the market will push up the wages associated with those jobs, and money talks. I promise that Americans will be happy to do these jobs you say that nobody wants. So miss me with all that stuff. Anyway, let's get back to the video.
SARO system, and that did work for a period of time, but we need something to keep track of people who are coming and going and to have the labor that is needed to get the jobs done.
Well, one thing is clear. Both parties have not really wanted to solve this issue. When Democrats had complete control of Washington, they didn't move an immigration bill. When Republicans had complete control of Washington, they didn't move an immigration bill, in part because donors and activists on both sides have tried to stop it. Tommy, if Trump actually gets in there, do you think that there's going to be a real change?
Well, I believe, to Ethan's point about the mass deportations, it's always interesting to me when those on the liberal side clutch their pearls about deporting people that came to our country illegally, but they completely dismiss what these people and their impact on communities. Now, listen, I do believe that a lot of these people are good people, that are families that are fleeing countries that are far worse than ours, and I understand that. And I don't blame them for coming to our country if given a free pass. But the fact of the matter is, our cities and our states simply cannot handle the load of millions and millions of illegal aliens in their communities.
If you like watching videos like this one, like and subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. Let's get back to the video.
Communities. It is bankrupting New York City. It is bankrupting Denver, Colorado. And that needs to be dealt with. So while I understand it's not going to look nice to have deportations, the American people and our country simply cannot sustain and maintain what is currently happening. And if you want to talk about wages, when you pump millions of illegal aliens and you give them work authorization, all you're doing is driving down wages for the American people. That is something that you also have to contend with. There's also limited housing. Right now, you've got cities that are paying for hotel rooms. They're paying for debit cards. They're paying for meals. They're paying for every whim and wish of illegal aliens. And that's simply unacceptable when you have American people that are currently struggling, especially in the Southeast right now. $750? I mean, come on, Ethan.
And Ethan,
This interview is a few months old, so it's funny that the host said, apparently the Republicans and the Democrats don't want to do anything about immigration. No, one party doesn't want to do anything about immigration. One party is very focused on illegal immigration. So it's funny that he said, do you think Donald Trump will actually do something if he gets into office? Well, your question has been answered. He was sworn in today, and prior to being sworn in, he said his first point of business is to send 200 law enforcement officials to Chicago and start rounding people up. And it's funny how these quote unquote sanctuary cities are virtue signaling about how they'll protect all of these illegal immigrants in their city. But then when Florida and Texas made examples of these sanctuary cities and sent a pittance compared to the number of illegal immigrants coming into the country, they sent a pittance of that number to these sanctuary cities, they freaked out about it and act like they were overwhelmed. New York, Chicago, the citizens there have had it. The crazy thing is they'll keep voting Democrat, but the citizens are pissed. I watched some of those city council meetings with Brandon Johnson in Chicago. First of all, that guy's an idiot, but man, the voters there are not happy with all the money that is going to illegal immigrants. Like Tommy said, for material things, not like just a couple of meals a day and a place to sleep, like hotels, debit cards, phones, all this crazy stuff. It's mind-blowing that anyone could argue in favor of not mass deporting illegal immigrants. But we want to hear from you. What do y'all think about this conversation over mass deportations and the southern border? Do you view it as a positive that Donald Trump appears to be fulfilling his promise that he would do mass deportations and sending law enforcement to Chicago to start the process? I think it's great. Let us know in the comments. Anyway, as always, we really appreciate you watching, and we will see you on the next one.